At my brother's wedding, I found my name scribbled on a napkin at the kids' table. After they opened my $6,000 check without asking, I took it back and watched their smiles disappear. Hey everyone. Before we kick off today's video, I've got a favor to ask. We've noticed our channel isn't getting as much love lately, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and it means we can keep bringing you awesome content. Your support really means a lot, so let's work together to keep this channel growing. Thanks a bunch. Now, let's dive into the video. Hey, I'm Evan, 31 years old. I'm not really the type who likes to be in the spotlight or anything. I'm more of a show up, help out, and keep it low-key kind of guy. I haven't made a ton of money, but I've been doing alright by building up my freelance gig quietly, living simply, and saving like it's a sport. So, when my younger brother Ryan announced he was tying the knot, I thought, alright, time to step up for the fam. I didn't expect a parade or cheers, but I also didn't think I'd be treated like some kind of forgotten guest. See, Ryan's always been the golden boy. Growing up, he got away with everything, like sneaking out or smashing up dad's old car, while I was the one getting in trouble for supposedly setting a poor example. When he ditched college for the second time, my parents still beamed at him over dinner, while I quietly paid off my student loans with 2 jobs, only to be asked if I could be more supportive. So yeah, I learned early on that family favoritism wasn't exactly on my side. But I figured the wedding might be an opportunity to reset things. I even offered to help with some expenses since they were tight on money. I decided to give them a hefty $6,000 gift. I wasn't trying to show off, I just wanted to do my part and feel like I mattered. Last Saturday, the wedding went down at this gorgeous vineyard about an hour out of the city. It was the kind of dreamy venue you'd see in a wedding magazine, rolling hills, twinkling fairy lights, and a jazz band by a fountain. I got there early, dressed up in my freshly dry-cleaned navy suit, holding an envelope with the check and a small framed photo of our late grandma to place at the reception table. She always said I was the soft-hearted one in the family. But the moment I checked out the seating chart, I got a dose of embarrassment. My name wasn't on the fancy list with all the pretty calligraphy. One of the planners eventually helped me find my name, scrawled in pen on a napkin. No assigned table, just a note for the kids section. Thinking it had to be a mix-up, I followed the arrow to a small table squished in the back by the kitchen exit, already occupied by kids playing with crayons. I stood there for a second, hoping Ryan would jump out and tell me it was a prank. Instead, I got a tap on my shoulder. It was his new wife, Tessa. "Oh hey," she said, like we were at some casual meetup. "Glad you made it. We weren't sure you'd come." I asked why I wouldn't, trying to keep my cool. She gave me that smile people do when they're just being polite. "Well, you seem like the type who lays low. We figured you'd be cool with something simple." I had no idea how to respond. "You put me at the kids' table?" Her smile didn't even flicker. "It was last minute. You weren't originally on the list." Something sank inside me, not dramatically, but just the slow realization that I didn't hold much importance to them. I just nodded, took my seat, and tried to ignore the kid who immediately spilled applesauce on my pants. Before even sipping my drink, I noticed something odd: my gift envelope, already torn open on the gift table. The check I'd written, supposed to congratulate Ryan and Tessa, was gone. I looked around for answers and spotted Tessa chatting and laughing with her bridesmaids. I approached her calmly, envelope in hand. "Hey," I said quietly. She turned, eyebrows raised. "This was opened already," I pointed out. She blinked, tilted her head like I was the weird one. "Oh yeah, we sorted gifts early. Ryan's mom thought it was easier. She didn't see an issue." "You opened a check meant for you both?" "Well, we didn't cash it," she shrugged. The pause in her voice made my stomach clench. I looked at the empty envelope and back at her. "So, you don't mind if I take it back?" Her smile vanished instantly. "Wait, you're serious?" I didn't reply, just folded the envelope, slipped it in my pocket, and walked away. Behind me, I heard her say something to her bridesmaid, but I didn't catch it. The words were familiar, but the sharp, mocking tone hit hard. I felt my neck getting hot. I tried to convince myself I didn't care what these folks thought of me, but I did. I wasn't just some name on a napkin, I was the guy who shelled out $6,000 with no strings attached, showed up early, brought a pic of grandma, and wore a suit even though I can't stand them. And that's why I ended up next to a sippy cup, suddenly cast as the villain for not going with the flow. I needed air, so I slipped outside to catch my breath, hanging around the vineyard's edge. Guests were buzzing in, snapping pics, and giggling as a jazz band switched to a Sinatra cover. The event was picture perfect, except I didn't fit in the frame. That's when the wheels started turning. I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot, and neither were they. So, I stood there, clutching that torn envelope, staring out at the hills like I was in a bad soap opera. This wasn't fiction, it was me, Evan, feeling overlooked by people who hadn't earned the right to mock my generosity. I didn't rush back in. I let the crowd's chatter and the clinking of glasses wash over me. I caught snippets of someone whining about the artsy hors d'oeuvres and heard my aunt's laugh, still shrill, just like when I was a kid. Everyone was playing their part in Ryan and Tessa's big day, while I was supposed to chill with a bunch of sugar-fueled kiddos, pretending I wasn't steaming inside. After a few minutes, my cousin Jordan found me. He's probably the only one in the family I still like. He came over, loosened his tie, and handed me a drink. "Take this," he said, "you look like you're plotting a murder." I managed a weak smile, "Not murder, just some quiet reevaluation." He noticed the envelope in my hand. "Did they really open it already?" he asked, looking surprised. I nodded, and told him about the kids' table. He gave a low whistle. "Wow, they really outdid themselves," he said, not even trying to defend them. That's why I liked him, no lame excuses about it being their special day or whatever, just silence that spoke volumes. Then he said something that hit hard. "You know, they wouldn't treat you like this if they didn't think you'd take it." I turned to him, confused. "What?" He shrugged. "You're the nice one. The guy who always shows up and never causes a scene. People like that are easy to ignore until they stop playing along." That stuck with me for a while. I watched the ceremony from a distance, not with the family, but by a tree, out of view. I saw Ryan fidget nervously and Tessa beam like she hit the jackpot. The whole time, Jordan's words played in my head, how staying quiet had become my thing, how low expectations became permission for disrespect. When the vows were done and applause faded, everyone headed to the reception tent with fairy lights and a DJ setting up for the first dance. I wasn't in the mood for speeches or eating. I just wanted to make it clear I wasn't dumb or a pushover, but I wasn't about to cause a scene either. I do things quietly and thoughtfully. So, I took out my phone, scrolled to Adam, my bank contact. Nobody in the family knew, but the check wasn't just a gift, it was a test. I'd instructed Adam to halt payment if things went south, and they had. I stepped away from the crowd and called him. Adam picked up quickly. "Evan, everything okay?" "Yep," I said, "remember that wedding check? Go ahead and nix it." There was a brief pause before he replied, "You got it. You'll get the email confirmation soon." I ended the call, just as Ryan waltzed by, glass of champagne in hand, making the rounds like he was running for office. He hadn't even bothered to say hi to me, not a handshake, hug, nothing, just brushed past like I was invisible. I watched him laugh with some gym buddies, guys who probably didn't even know my name. So, here's the deal. I found myself reminiscing about all those times when I picked up the slack for him, like covering his share of the rent back in the day or being his personal chauffeur when he was too plastered to drive home from a party. Oh, and let's not forget how many times I bit my tongue when our parents gave him the royal treatment and left me to fend for myself. Yeah, I was done playing pretend. Dinner was served, and I plopped back into my seat, picking at some not-so-hot chicken, while the kid next to me decided the tablecloth was a good place to wipe his nose. No one from the main table even glanced my way. No toast in my honor. No, thank you. I might as well have been a waiter, honestly. When the DJ called out, "Let's get the whole family on the floor," I decided I had enough. I grabbed my photo of Grandma from the gift table, tucked it under my arm, and headed outside without a word. I barely made it out when I heard someone yell my name. It was Tessa. "Evan, what are you doing?" I stopped, but didn't bother turning around. "You can't just take stuff from the gift table," she said, sounding all confused. I held up the frame. "This belonged to me," I told her. She looked puzzled for a second but then shrugged it off. "Okay, but you're acting weird. Did something happen?" I tilted my head. "You tell me." Her expression shifted, she knew exactly what I was talking about but tried to laugh it off. "Come on, don't be so sensitive. The table thing was just logistics, and your gift was so generous. We've already deposited it." I cut her off with a quiet, "No, you didn't." She blinked, confused. "What?" "I canceled it," I replied. Her smile vanished. "Wait, you're serious?" I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "I was never part of the plan, remember? Just the low-maintenance one." And with that, I turned back to my car, leaving her standing there with nothing, but the real storm was coming because the check wasn't the only thing I was pulling back. They were about to learn just how much they relied on me without even realizing it. On the drive home, I didn't rush. I let the wind cool me down, feeling strangely at ease as I left the fairy tale glow of the vineyard wedding behind. It wasn't just about the $6,000. It was about realizing how little they actually thought of me, not just Ryan and Tessa, but everyone. Like, my parents didn't even call to check if I'd arrived, no one noticed I was sitting at the kiddie table, and I was expected to give and give without ever saying, enough. The next morning, my phone blew up with messages. Most were from family in the wedding group chat. Congrats here, blurry dance floor selfies there, and then this one message from Tessa that caught my eye. She wrote, "Hey everyone, just a heads up, there's a glitch with one of the wedding checks, but we're sorting it out. Thanks for being so generous." My aunt and uncle quickly chimed in, asking if it was my check. Didn't he give like $5,000 or something? One of them said. Tessa tried to brush it off with, "No big deal. We'll figure it out." I didn't reply. I just watched the chat shift to cake flavors and DJ playlists. Around noon, Ryan finally texted me, skipping any pleasantries. "Hey, Tessa said you pulled the check. Is that true? No hi, no thanks for coming, just straight to the point." I ignored it. An hour later, he followed up, "Can you call me?" Seriously, dude, we already made plans based on that. I tossed my phone aside and let it buzz away in silence. Here's the thing, they didn't realize that check was just a tiny piece of what I was supporting. When our parents retired, they didn't have much saved up. They downsized, bought a smaller house, and Ryan moved to a new apartment that was way out of his league. He called me, all sheepish, saying he was a little short and needed help getting the lease approved. So, I co-signed, and I've been covering half his rent ever since. It was supposed to be for just 3 months, but that turned into 6, then a year, and so on. I thought I was helping him out, being the supportive older brother. But enough was enough. I went online, filled out the form to remove myself as his co-signer, attached the rental statements, and sent my request. Since I'd been paying most of the rent, the process was smooth. Within 48 hours, Ryan would get a notice that the rent was now fully his responsibility. And I couldn't wait to see how that played out. So, there I was, quietly snipping away at all the little things tying me to his world. I'm talking about stuff like the streaming services he was using on my account, our Spotify family plan, the car insurance we were both under, and even that Costco membership we shared. I was unraveling every little thread linking me to his life, and I didn't say a peep the whole time. Staying quiet was new to me, but it felt like a strategic move, By Monday, my phone was blowing up with unread messages. Ryan was all, "Dude, what's happening? Rent bounced. Did you take your name off the lease or something?" Then there was Tessa, acting like I was overreacting, saying the bounced check was just a misunderstanding. Seriously? Like I didn't have a reason to be upset. That no reason line hit me hard. Not a single "we're sorry" or "we didn't mean to hurt you," just a snide reminder that I was supposedly making a mountain out of a molehill. I didn't even bother replying. I just filed their messages away in a folder I called closure, knowing it wasn't really over. Then, Tuesday morning, my mom called. She was all worried, saying Ryan had called her in a panic about my so-called financial support. She wanted to know what went down at the wedding. I kept my cool and told her the real issue was that only one of her sons ever learned to stand on his own 2 feet. She tried to brush it off, saying Ryan had a tough time and that Tessa didn't mean to be rude at the wedding. But come on, Tessa had me sitting with the kids and opened my gift before I even got there. Mom thought I was being harsh, but I had been footing the bill for Ryan's life for years without so much as a thank you. Her voice softened as she realized how much she'd missed. I told her I was done being an invisible helper and enduring guilt trips. She whispered that she understood, but I couldn't tell if she meant it. Hanging up, I didn't feel angry or triumphant, just clear-headed, like I'd finally ditched this burden I'd carried for years. But clarity didn't last long. 2 days later, Tessa marched into my office uninvited. Her vibe screamed, "I'm here to fix this, not apologize." She was dressed to impress, and our receptionist, Lacey, looked at me wide-eyed, clearly recognizing Tessa from my stories. Tessa wanted to clear the air, saying the wedding seating was a minor slip-up because weddings are chaotic. I pointed out my name was on a napkin, and my gift was opened early. She blamed that on my mom. Nice deflection, right? She was there because Ryan was stressed, his rent bounced, creditors were hounding him, and his insurance had lapsed. Basically, I'd turned his world upside down. I said I'd given warnings, but no one took me seriously. Tessa accused me of punishing Ryan for being the favorite son, and I just blinked, wondering if we lived in alternate universes. She insisted I didn't need the money since I live alone, without kids. "So, you're working remotely and haven't even got a mortgage, right?" What are you really doing with all that extra cash? Saving it just to make a point or something? And then it happened. Tessa's mask slipped for a moment. Her chin lifted with that entitled air, and her voice was all cold and calculated. It was clear, she wasn't interested in fixing anything, it was all about control. I let out a slow, humorless chuckle. Do you really think I owe you something? Like I'm just a background donor in your picture-perfect life? Just because I'm quiet and don't make a fuss, it doesn't mean I'm your financial plan. You think I'm the backup when Ryan goes overboard or your Instagram fantasy needs funding? Her confident smile faded a bit, but I kept going. You opened my gift before I even arrived at your wedding, sat me next to a kid who used the tablecloth as a tissue, and you only talked to me about money all night. And now, because your safety net has a backbone, you waltz into my office trying to act like it's all a big misunderstanding? Tessa just stared at me, for once speechless. You married Ryan, I said evenly, so you married his debts, his habits, and that entitlement. Good luck with that, but I'm done bankrolling it. I'm not just your easygoing donor, I'm your brother-in-law, and now I'm just going to be a ghost. She stood up slowly and deliberately. You'll regret this, she said. I tilted my head and replied, only if I forget why I started. She left without another word. The fallout hit fast. Ryan called me that night, ditching his usual passive-aggressive texts for a raw, angry rant. You humiliated me, he yelled, you ambushed us and made me look like an idiot in front of everyone. I replied calmly, I didn't make you do anything. You did that to yourself. I just stopped letting you steamroll me. We're brothers, Evan, he snapped, you think family just cuts each other off over one bad night? I paused, it wasn't just one night. It was years of being invisible until you needed me. Years of cleaning up your messes, co-signing your leases, funding your lifestyle. And when I finally needed a place at the table, you handed me a napkin. You're overreacting, he said. No, I replied, I'm reacting appropriately for the first time in my life. He hung up. I expected the family backlash and braced for it, and it came hard. Dad called, saying I was being dramatic. Mom begged me to apologize and rise above it. Even my uncle sent a long voicemail about how families should move past grudges. But not a single one asked how I felt. Not a single, are you okay? Or did that hurt you? Or even we're sorry we didn't notice. It was all about fixing things or letting it go, so the family wouldn't be torn apart by money. So, I sent a single group text, this isn't about money, it's about respect. I'd given and given for years and finally realized I was only valued for what I could give, not who I am. I'm stepping back, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. I wish you all the best, but I'm done being a ghost at your table. And then I left the group chat, blocked a few numbers, and muted the rest. The silence felt heavy at first, after always being the quiet supporter in a loud crowd. But gradually, something changed. I felt lighter, started sleeping better, my work improved, and I reconnected with old friends. I even took a weekend trip to the mountains, something I'd always put off because family demands always came first. Weeks rolled by, then a month, and the noise faded away. No more calls, no guilt trips, no more being shuffled to the side. Then, out of nowhere, Jordan texted me, guess who's selling their fancy couch on Facebook Marketplace? I laughed out loud, and it wasn't bitter or smug. It was freeing. I never went back to that family dynamic, never resumed the payments, never again spent holidays as the background ATM. And I never let myself be treated like I didn't belong, especially by people who only noticed me when my wallet arrived before I did. Because here's what I learned, respect isn't earned by being quiet and helpful, it's demanded by walking away when it's refused. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud at all, it's the sound of a cancelled check, the silence after finally speaking your mind, and the echo of a napkin being torn in two. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you.